Faith in Action is a Santuario de San Antonio ministry for those 40 years old and above who are looking for a community that can serve as their home base, somewhere where they can grow their faith. Our mission is accompaniment through outreach, interaction, and activities, living active Catholic faith lives.
At FIA, we draw in and welcome those who are searching, whether to grow their faith or to serve in other ways. A regular Bible study with our parish priest, Father Ryu, has served as an integral guide in our lives. Aside from spiritual formation, we value personal connections through socials. By tapping members' interests and potential, we strive to maintain a nurturing space where everyone feels comfortable and involved.
FIA is family, a family who is there for you through your ups and downs, celebrating your joys and successes, and praying together during challenging times and celebrating the many blessings we have in life. We have shared many wonderful moments, like driving to Antonio's on New Year's to share Christmas stories in Kwentuhang Christmas. Joining the Fiesta Fundraise as the Fiasco team, we were able to support, encourage, and push one another beyond our boundaries as we try to achieve our goal. FIA is a family who will help you grow and strengthen your faith.
Faith in Action makes a difference by empowering its members to get involved in various outreach activities such as caring and hugging abandoned infants who have little human contact, distributing food and other essentials to earthquake victims in Davao, and creating social activities to entertain the retired nuns of the Religious of the Virgin Mary and the abandoned elderly.
Ang naidulot ko po ng pagsali ko sa distribution ng relief goods ay ang pagiging pagkumbaba. Nakita ko rin ang kaibaitan ng mga tao na parating may pag-asa at ang importansya ng pananampalataya sa Diyos, sa ating sarili at sa mga tao sa paligid natin.
Faith in Action supports the other ministries of Santuario de San Antonio Parish. We visited the community in Zambales that is being supported by the Eco Justice Ministry. During our visit, we learned about the projects that they have started to help the Aitas return to their ancestral land. To support this project, we have donated hygiene products and school supplies for the children.
FIA believes in the power of intercession. As a prayer warrior, I represent FIA in the different novenas and church activities we have for the youth and for the family to intercede not only for our church but for our country as well.
Being active in FIA has allowed me to become an active member of the church and has given me many opportunities to serve.
Faith in Action is good. I mean, really good. It keeps me grounded. It's about acceptance and humility. Distance and time difference won't stop me from continuing my commitment to being active and being of service to the community and to God. FIA is stronger and can continuously do more small miracles when we have more members. So I hope you can join us and make a change in this world. Kaya tara na. Thanks.
chemicals. In many countries, when they use pesticide, they probably just use it once every 3 months. But in our case, some of our farmers, they're not taught that, and they just use it as often as they can. And that means when we eat those foods, we are eating all those chemicals. Then, you know, the people who hold storages of food, for example, our rice, you know, where they keep the stock of rice. Rice is imported or bought from our farmers. They keep it in a big bodega. I don't know if you know that they spray that almost every week with pesticide. So all of that goes into our bodies. Our bodies are natural. There's no real chemical in our body except that we consume and put inside. So cells are reproduced every second. Some cells are dying, we are replenishing it, but oftentimes our body is not able to replenish it well because we're not eating the right food. We're not eating the food that helps to build those cells back. You can see it oftentimes in people through the skin or hair or how they move. So you want to have energy all the time. You want to be energetic and full of life, because only then can we really help our environment, help our families, and share what we know with others. Now, organic production, there's a nice poster because I picked that out because you see, we eat all those vegetables. If we ate it, we would be better off. But many times, how often do you eat vegetables? And then when you eat the vegetables, are they overcooked? Because if they're overcooked, then it's like you're not eating anything at all. So you have to also be conscious of that. That's why the mindfulness. Then I put on some other pictures over here on different topics because I'm trying to do it as short as possible, but I'll try to expand on some. I was talking about rice. You know, the Philippines has one of the best rice in the world. It was tested by a German professor, and he tested it with other rice from other parts of the world, and ours was the best. But how many of us in this room eats our mountain rice? Can I see a raise of hands? Great, more. Because most of you are eating white rice. And white rice has been polished to remove all the great things around the rice. You know, the fiber and the germ. You know, when they polish the rice, the germ, which is like the heart of the rice, is removed. So you're just eating carbohydrates that's devoid of all the life-giving minerals and vitamins and food sources. So I often say, please eat the brown rice. It's our rice. It's our Philippine rice. Upstairs, I asked Tony to please invite my Kalinga farmers, and they have that rice. Of course, it's more expensive, and you're going to tell me next, but Mara, you know, our budget for food is not that much. I agree. Because, you know, the white rice costs like 33 pesos. That's the cheapest one I've seen. The rice from the mountains is 150. So if you think about it, it's almost, you know, like 5 times the price. But think about, if you eat that white rice, it doesn't energize you. It gives you all those chemicals. And 5 to 10 years down the road, you'll have some kind of disease. Maybe just first gastrointestinal, maybe later it leads to diabetes, maybe it leads on to cancer. Think about those diseases. How much will that cost you to go to the hospital to get testing, to get rid of that disease, if you can get rid of it? So for me, I believe prevention is far better. Eating the right foods, eating the brown rice. So I never found the rice to be expensive because I don't think of the 30 pesos, I think of how far will that rice stretch my life and my family. So I am a product, everything I'm telling you, I've done in my life for the past 35 years or more. And so I know how it feels. There have been times I've been in the province and I had to be a guest of some people, and all the rice they would give me was white. I would eat it, to be nice, but I would feel the difference in my energy, I would feel the difference in my digestive system, and I would also see the effect on my skin. So, is this what you want in your life, to feel this way? And do you want your children to have that too? And nowadays, the rise of cancer is so fast. Even children, younger, are getting it. But that's because of the food they eat, really. The other thing is, our planet cannot really survive on all this synthetic, as you in eco-justice, all these synthetic things happening. You can see videos and documentaries about the plastic in our waters, in the ocean. The fish are eating it. You're eating the fish. You're also eating all that thing. So, do we want to keep doing it that way? Do we really want to protect Mother Earth, our planet, that way? If you think about it, the Earth is our mother. We all come from that. But do we think about it every time we step on the ground? Do we think about, oh wow, this is soil? No, most of us think, oh yeah, it's dirty, It's not dirty. It may be dirty because of what you place there. But the soil is not. The soil nourishes us. It's what gives us the minerals in our vegetables. And the animals that eat the grass also get their nourishment from that. So it's best to start from the beginning with quality ingredients. Food is the same way. Slow food, the topic of slow food, it's not just that you cook it slowly, but that it's produced in a slower way, in the sense of, like rice. Rice, the mountain rice, takes about double the time of white rice. So then most people, farmers, would say, ay, doon na lang sa white kasi mas mabilis, so faster profit, faster everything. But it does not really fill your stomachs with nutrients. It's full of chemicals. So there was an experiment made of rice, and they placed the organic rice on one side and the white rice on another side, and they released the insects that eat the rice, the weevils. Where did the weevils go? Straight to the brown rice. The insects are smarter than us sometimes because they know that the white is full of chemicals. They're not going to eat it. And, buy a sack of rice. Does your white sack get weevils? Not really. But if you get the brown one, it gets weevils very fast. So that's an indication. I'm not saying that I'll eat the weevils and buy the rice for the weevils. It's just that the weevils, the insects themselves, know better. And we should know better. So brown rice is one of those essential ingredients that I urge you to eat. The other thing is, meats. I'm not a vegetarian. I do eat certain meats sometimes. But I don't eat meat mostly because, have you ever seen how they feed pigs? Have you not seen that pigs are given the waste foods from the restaurants? Many of them. When I worked in a hotel many years ago when I was much younger, I would go to the kitchen and I would see somebody would come every morning to buy the buckets of leftover foods, of foods that they scrapped and placed into a bucket. And I asked the guy, why do you buy that? And he said, oh, it's for our piggery. And my mother is a doctor, and my first thoughts were, Oh, all the bacteria. Can you imagine? Let's say a person has a cold and he ate that plate, but then they scrap it into that bucket. Well, then all the bacteria is there too. And that bacteria only festers and accumulates with the fermentation of that food overnight. And if they don't feed it right away, more bacteria festers. And yes, they tell you, niluluto mo namin yan because the heat will kill some of the bacteria, but not all. Not all. And that's what they give our pigs. And if your diet consists of eating pork 2 to 3 times a week, well, you should be careful because that is not a good source of food when it's fed that way. There are, we have native pigs, and in the slow food country of Italy, where slow food started, they are so excited about seeing native pigs. In Italy themselves, they have a black pig, and even in Spain, that jamon serrano, that comes from a black pig. And they're fed chestnuts, vegetables, all clean. They don't feed them leftover food. They don't. And so when you smell that pork, if ever you go to Italy or Spain or even the jamon serrano, just compare the jamon serrano smell with the commercial ham in the grocery, and there is a big difference. And there's a big difference not just in quality, texture, but in the nutrients that you get into your body. Now, chicken is another one, because chicken now has become one of our primary meats, okay? Because most people think, okay, I'll avoid the pork, I'll avoid the beef, then I'll stick to chicken. So then chicken becomes like almost twice a day you eat chicken. In some form or another. But then, did you ever think of how they raise the chicken? I mean, sometimes if you go to those chicken farms, kawawa naman. They put them in pens, and then in the pens, sometimes they're pecking on each other, because they're also stressed. Animals have stress too. And so they're pecking on each other, they're given all these feeds that also has chemicals. Oh, talking about animal feeds, by the way, in the topic, the feeds that they make, commercial feeds, did you know that they add animal products to it? Because when they killed a cow, for example, or a pig, only about 65 to 70% is the actual meat. Then you have all the innards, the head, the intestines and things like that, that is considered waste. Of course, maybe not all the intestine because of the chorizo, but it is considered waste. So the feed companies, the commercial feed companies thought, oh, here's a good way. You'd think, oh, reuse, recycle, diba? Our theme in ecology. But it's not a good way to reuse because they got all the hoofs of the animals, all the skin, all the basura that they take away after culling and killing and culling an animal, and that gets pulverized and added to the animal feeds. Now, have you ever seen a chicken eat a pig or bite a pig? No, right? Have you seen a pig bite a cow? Hindi rin. But they are eating each other. The feeds that they eat are made up of different animals. So that also changes the quality of the meats. Because you don't want to eat something that's sort of cannibalized, cannibal meat, because that's what's happening. Even fish, the fish meals, it also has all those leftover carcasses of animals. They don't tell you that. You see it, you see the feeds, they're selling it, it's all dry. They don't provide you the ingredients, but that's what it is. Of course, many will say, well, we give them soya and we give them corn. Now, I come into another topic that eco-justice, do something about this. It's called GMO. GMO, I make a joke about it. It's not the husband of GMA. GMO means genetically modified organisms. It's, they play with genes. For example, an example is tomato. They wanted tomatoes to be really red as blood. So they got the gene of the beef that has really red blood, and somehow they placed that into the gene of the tomato. Now, a tomato and a cow will never mate, right? Impossible, di ba? But when they give those GMO things, it's like that's what happened. So yeah, you're eating a tomato that's so red, but it's genetically produced. Now, all these big companies that produce these things would say, Mara, what's the big deal? Because I actually sued. I made a big case about that in the Supreme Court 8 years ago. And the companies were saying, what's wrong? This will help our farmers. We will produce more food. We will have more harvest. Yeah, it's all true. But we will also lose more people. We'll be killing off our people. And you don't die immediately from GMO. The worst thing about it is the scientists themselves don't know what will happen when you eat GMO foods every day. Because it will take up to 3 generations to see the effect. Now, wouldn't it be funny if, one day you have, on the 3rd generation, a child comes out and maybe he has his nose like a pig, or he has ears like another animal. But these are all things that can happen if you keep consuming GMO. So, in our country, we don't label GMO yet. And I don't think they will at the moment because it's one of the biggest industries. Our Department of Agriculture gives the seeds for free. And what happens in agriculture is when they get those free seeds, parang ang galing free. It's not really free because later you become dependent on those seeds. Nothing else will grow in your fields but those seeds. And if those seeds, like one of the worst ones is called golden rice. This was produced in Los Baños. They spent over $10 million to produce this GMO rice. And what was the reason for the GMO rice when we already have this fantastic rice in the mountains? You'd think this is really crazy. I think it's really crazy. They did it because they said Asians are predisposed to blindness. And the blindness is because of lack of vitamin A. All right, this is true. But rice is not really high in vitamin A because it's white, brown, or red. It's when they're the red or black rice that you have more vitamin A. But the white, devoid. So it's really, education would have helped with the $10 million rather than producing a rice that when they grow that rice, let's say, I hope I'm successful with the rice terraces that they don't grow it, but they're growing a lot of it in Mindanao. And what happens is when that rice, pollination, when the rice pollinates, it crossbreeds with the native and local rice, and it takes over. Then it will just be GMO. Now, here's a scenario. They say, it's for food security. All right, that's a noble, reason. But after a while, how can it be food security when every time you want to grow rice or any vegetable, you have to run to the source of the seeds to buy their seeds. In the US right now, they have that big problem, the corn. Because corn is also GMO, soya is GMO, peanuts. If you just go to the internet, you'll see there's over 30 food things in the Philippines alone, and in the world, I think it's over 50. And so all those food things, to grow it again, they have to get the seeds from those companies. So how can that be food security? Food security should have been the old way of agriculture where you save your seeds from the last harvest to grow the next harvest. That's the better food security. But in GMO, you cannot really develop those seeds to grow again. In the US, for example, the corn seeds. Corn, Mexico is like us in that they have so many varieties of corn, and they were the mother country for corn. But when GMO came out about 15 years ago, there was a group of people in the US that were environmentalists. They went to Mexico right away to check if GMO had already spread out to Mexico. And actually, they were worried because in the hinterlands, meron pang native corn. But in the lowlands, wala na. It's all already mixed with GMO. So, we have to be very careful about this thing. Sometimes technology helps us, but sometimes it doesn't. There's also, here's this lady. Vandana Shiva is so against GMO. And she is like the mother of organic and slow food. She was one of the founders of slow food in Italy, is Vandana Shiva. And she is worldwide renowned for her very strong position against GMO, against chemicals, and against pharmaceuticals and big industry that has sort of degraded agriculture and food. And please look her up because look how many books she's written. Fantastic amount of books. And if you even just listen to her, she makes a lot of good sense. Now, we've talked about food. Let me go on to, before that, salt. Because I just read that there's going to be a bill on salt. Do you know the difference between sea salt and regular salt, iodized salt? So, sea salt, actually, the sea has the same mineral content as our blood, or our blood has the same content. And sea salt is very nourishing when it's natural. But what they did was, they got the salt and they thought, ang dumi because it has some dumi and it's rough. Ay, linisin natin. And in polishing it and cleaning it, they realized, wala nang iodine. That would be bad for people that get goiter. So they iodized it. But the iodine that they're putting is also synthetic chemical. So you're not eating good salt. So that's why the rise of high blood, hypertension, heart disease, because of that salt. I gave this talk once to some lawyers and some congressmen, and they were saying, Mara, gagawa tayo ng bid, palitan natin yan. I said, I hope so, because magaling naman ang salt natin eh. Our sea salt is one of the best in the world. When you go abroad, you go to the gourmet shops, there's all kinds of salt. There's black salt, there's red salt, there's the pink salt from the Himalayas. There are many kinds of salt. Some of them are from the sea, but the Himalayan one are from caves. Because once before, the Himalayas was underwater many millions of years ago. So that salt got accumulated in their caves, and they get that Himalayan salt from there. Himalayan salt is actually one of the best for me because when they look at the molecular structure of salt, Himalayan has the most complete, like crystal structure. It's almost like a double pyramid. So in terms of energy and nutrition, that's the better salt. Of course, it's important, but We have local salt in Zambales. That group Sana was inviting, that you can get in touch with them. They produce sea salt. They do not iodize it. They just send it to you straight from their, of course there's grades of salt. The cleaner one on top, slightly dirty at the bottom. Those are the different sort of grades of salt. So and because us in the Philippines, we tend to like salty foods. We put a little salt even in our sangag. You put garlic and a little salt. Please switch that salt to sea salt because it will do you wonders. Now, a little bit on the food, I wanted to give you an example of how important food nutrition is. Some time ago, when I was still doing the market and I would stand there every weekend, a lady came to me and said, Mara, my mother retired last month, 3 months ago. And in a month, she's become senile. I said, that's unusual. I said, what are you feeding her? I always ask about the food. And she said, well, because my mother lives alone, so she's buying a lot of packaged foods, the noodle in a package, the frozen foods, canned foods, all prepared already. And she's just eating that every day. And I told her, and then her rice must be cooked pa in a rice cooker, diba? She said, yeah, how did you know? Because of what you told me about your mother. Why? Aluminum. Most of the cookwares that you can buy and the rice cooker, it's aluminum. Please do this simple experiment in your homes. Get a new aluminum pot. So you can say, kasi madumi yung aluminum pot o madumi yung tubig. Pour water into that new pot. And then just rub it with your hands. You don't have to scrub it with a metal thing, just with your hands. And then pour that water back into a clear glass. And you will see that water becomes grayish. Aluminum leaches into the foods that you cook in it. The cans have aluminum, it leaches into the food of the can. So that lady was eating so much aluminum, plus processed foods that was already devoid of any nutrients. So of course, her cells are not replenishing. She's lacking that renewal of her cells. So I told that lady, well, can you attend to your mother's food and make sure she gets freshly cooked foods, vegetables, sana organic vegetables para high nutrient value, and then you can give her, fish and chicken and beef if you want, but please get the freshly cooked, yung bagong luto, what it's been in the fridge for a whole week, or canned foods, or frozen foods. Do you know that lady, in less than a month, the lady came back to tell me, you were so right, my mother is normal again. I said, of course, because you put her back into a natural state of being. So, there's so much to think about. Even water. When you pour water, when you cook rice, back to the rice, when you cook rice, are you using tap water? Please don't. Unless your tap water has a filter. Because the water that comes out of Nawasa is full of chemicals. Full, from chlorine to fluoride to so many other things. Of course, they're putting it there because they want the water to come to you clean. But they're not realizing that they're also putting in all the toxins that could give you so much disease. So that's why now we see all this bottled water. But where's that there? On the bottled water, by the way, there's so many kinds of water. But as you see here, there's distilled. Distilled is one that I highly never recommend. Because here's an experiment. Get that distilled water, put it in a plastic bottle or a cup or a vase. Put one of those plants, the ones you can just cut and put in water and it starts to root. Put it in distilled water and watch if it will grow roots. If it doesn't grow roots, then you know what it will do in your body. That's the simplicity of that. So never, because oftentimes when I go to meetings, they always serve distilled water because they want to be sure that they're not giving you water that will make you sick. But really, distilled water in Europe, in Germany specifically, they only use distilled water for the car batteries and for in the hospitals when they're going to inject something and they need water, they use distilled water, which makes sense because it has to be ultra clean. But you don't want to drink that 8 glasses a day because then it has no nourishment whatsoever. None. Now, in life we have 3 things that we need: food, shelter, and clothing. So I've covered that part of food, and if you have, maybe I should stop there first if you have any questions. Okay. One more thing I needed to say to you about food. Animals. Do you know that they give animals antibiotics? Because of course, again, to prevent disease, right? But then the antibiotics, an extreme case of the effects of antibiotics, and this was about 30 years ago when AIDS was on the rise in New York. I was living in New York. And there was such a fear about AIDS because they didn't understand what was going on. But people like me who had been eating organic and reading and studying about natural ways of living, we only saw it as one way. Most animals are given so much antibiotics. So when they milk the cow, the milk comes out full of antibiotics. Antibiotics lodges into the fatty tissues of animals and human beings. So milk is a fatty substance, and so there will be antibiotic, traces of it. And the people who were getting AIDS in the beginning, I'm sorry, but they blamed it on gay guys or women or men first. Because at the time, when I was living in New York, I had a lot of gay friends, of course. They had this really bad habit of before going out at night, they would take antibiotics. And I used to tell them, huh? Why are you taking antibiotics? You don't have a cold, you don't have anything wrong with you. No, Mara, because we're going to have a wild night and we don't want to get any bacteria. That's not how antibiotics works. It's not a preventive. You use it when there's already a problem. So a lot of them were doing that. And most of them were heavy meat eaters. So the accumulation and added on of the antibiotics was evident. Now, that's also happening now. There are many times you hear of a person who's in the hospital and they've given it so many kinds of antibiotics already and it's still not working. That's because many times our bodies are already overloaded with antibiotics. We don't even know it. So when you take any other antibiotic, it's not going to work. Antibiotics will only work best if you use it specifically for an ailment and not that you're using it every day. So these are some of the reasons why to be cautious about even your meat sources. Going a little back on the meat, because I'm sure most of you eat meat. Chicken, we have organic chicken upstairs. But if you go to the groceries, another source of better chicken than the commercial chicken is halal chicken. Because halal, they're very strict about the feeds of the animals. They don't want the corn with GMO, they don't want the soya GMO and stuff like this. So they certify the meats, the animals that are halal. These are better. So the grocery, I know Rustan's has it and some other stores, you have to ask for halal and they will have it. But if you can get the organic ones, I think it's even better.
We're selling upstairs.
Upstairs, the buko guy has eggs and chicken.
Yes. And turkey. Whole turkey.
Okay, yeah, he has that too. That's great. So now I go to the topic of shelter. Okay, so we all live in our beautiful... Did you have a question?
Yeah, are they selling the
A chicken? Yes, they do upstairs. No, they don't. I'll give you a phone number later of this group in Sambali. You have it, no? Sambali?
Somebody.
Yeah, that they were going to join, but they couldn't.
No,
I'll give it to you later because they deliver vegetables and they have chicken, pork, beef, and the sea salt. Okay. Maybe later I can pull out my phone and give you all the numbers. And then, so next we finish food and now shelter. I'm sure we all have our beautiful homes, our small castles, our kingdoms is our home. But did you ever think about how natural your home is? Example or citing reasons. Plywood, which we use a lot of plywood. I use it also. The boards, the sides, panels. Plywood is not solid wood. It's sort of crushed wood that they compress. And how do they keep it together? Did you think about that? When they use high chemical glue something, and that can sometimes leach into the air. So the paint that you use will help. Now, luckily, we have good paints that are water-based. Some of it has borax, which avoids insects. So at least you can cover the surface of those plywoods better. But be conscious of that paint also, because if you use the other paint that's not water-based, that is toxic. And it sometimes, mixes into our air, and if you spray something on it, it could have a reaction. So our homes, we have to protect our homes too. We begin with ourselves, and then the next thing is our environment. Even our beds, do you think about how are you sleeping? What is that bed? Before, I still use it because I'm sort of old-fashioned that way, but kapok beds, which there's no more kapok. It used to be kapok, but now when you go to a store and you say, I want my kapok mattresses pa kayo? They'll show you these mattresses, and I bought it before, and then I was wondering, I didn't open it because I believe them, right? Kapok ko yan. But then one day, somebody was sitting and spilled water, and they were wearing white. And when they stood up, the whole part was blue. And I thought, blue? That's not kapok. So then I made a tear. I looked at it. In the theme of recycle, reuse, all the retazos of the jeans, they shred it and they put that and make, because it's cotton naman, and they make that the kapok. So when water spills and you're sitting on it, hopefully you're not wearing white because it will turn blue. So there's so many things to consider. The pillow. Are you using the foam pillows? Foam, it's best to use the latex foam because latex is natural. It's made from the rubber tree. But then the other foam, ang init. Especially nowadays, you put your head there after a while, oh my God, what's this? It's so hot. When I go out of town and I have to stay in hotels that, I can't naman bring my pillow like a braggy girl, but I bring a tela na lang and I cover my pillow because those foam pillows are so hot. I sleep there and I feel like umiinit yung ulo ko because it's the foam also sort of draws heat. And so between the heat of your body and the heat it has, you're getting like a sauna effect. So these are all the things you have to consider. What else? When you clean your house, what are you using? In my house, Clorox, it's a brand, okay, I'm just telling you now, but it's chlorine. Those are forbidden in my house. I don't use Clorox because Clorox is really very toxic. If you use it straight, it can destroy your lungs. It's one of the chemicals that really damages your lungs. So, I revert to using natural products. There's one product that's very useful. Right now, you can buy it from True Value. It's called Borax, Borax. It's a white powder. Yes? Okay, I have to rush you. And Borax is a natural powder. It comes from natural sources. And it's very good for bacteria. It's very good for, you mix it in water. And I make my own cleaners. If you go to YouTube and check out, which I gave you a link on the paper, if you have it, you can get all the sort of how to make your own cleaning ingredients. Vinegar is one of the good ones too, by the way. It's just that you don't want your home to smell like adobo every day, right? So I have to put a little like lemongrass or something to change the smell. Now, I've touched on the homes, and now we're going to go through clothing. Every day we're all dressed. Alam nga naman, we'll all be naked. It's not a nudist camp. And what are you choosing for your clothing? Especially, let's begin with the inner clothing first, because that's what really nakadikit to your body. Are you choosing cotton? Are you choosing natural fibers? Because synthetic fibers draws too much heat. I'm going to be a little bit more descriptive here. For men and women, if your underwear is synthetic, actually for men it can create problems for their organs and for women too. So look for the cotton, because actually now there's a lot of cotton. 30 years ago when I came back from living abroad, I had a hard time finding cotton underwear. I had to go abroad and buy them. But now there's a lot everywhere. Muji has them, those Uniqlo has a lot of them, and they're not expensive, and they're quite good, or Marks and Spencer, and even Schumart has them. So look for the cotton. Another fiber that's used a lot now, and you think, oh, why? Is bamboo and hemp. Because bamboo, it's really very soft, it's even silky. And hemp, what is hemp? It's marijuana, okay? And marijuana has so many uses, and one of its uses is fiber. Fiber for clothing, fiber for paper, and it's one of the strongest fibers. So when you go abroad, you'll see, the t-shirt is made of hemp. The underwear is made of hemp, and they're very nice, and they're very good on the skin. So think about what you're putting onto your body before you put it, because especially now with this heat, I cannot tolerate to have a synthetic t-shirt. Otherwise, I would enter this room looking like I came from a sauna because it's so hot. And then for women, we all wear, okay man, just listen. We all wear brasiers, right? Do you wear the bras that have wire? Thank you, because that wire contributes to your breast problems. And again, preferably look for cotton. Some materials like rayon are natural. It's not synthetic, okay? Now, okay, I've done the clothing. Last, on the clothing and personal care. Makeup. Okay, I have hardly any makeup. I only put lipstick because it's too hot to put, the whole thing in 1 minute. After one sweat, I would look ridiculous wiping one eye out or something like this, no? But makeup. A lot of the commercial makeup has a lot of synthetic ingredients in it. One of the easiest to think about is lipstick. The minerals they put in the lipstick and the things they put to make the color stick to your mouth is very synthetic. And sometimes, if you look at some women, parang they have a darker outline, not that they put the pencil, but it's like darker. That's the residue of the colorings and the chemicals that stays at the, on the brim of your lips. So look for natural and more non-synthetic lipsticks. There are now. Again, there's more choices now than there was 20 years ago. So look for those also. You would say, but all of this sounds so expensive. It is, but I think our life is worth it. I think if we can all live longer with better quality of life, I think the cost should not be something that we should hesitate about. Lastly, the last thing I wanted to say is, and before anything, in the back of this flyer I gave you, I'm telling you all these natural ways to protect yourself and be careful. But right now, there is a bill pending in our government that I call it the martial law on our health. They will dictate to us to do this, that, and we cannot do anything about it. So please look at it and try to stop it. I have a nephew that's doing a lot to make that contra, and another lady that's helping out is former Senator Jambi Madrigal. They're doing a lot of efforts to stop this bill because this bill is really detrimental for us. And lastly, because we're in the church, I wanted to talk about our spirits. Yes, we pray, but let's pray mindfully. Let's think of what is best for our health. Let's also visualize better health for ourselves first, for people around us, our family, for our community, and then our planet. I put some links there, and one of the things I'm very fond of, by the way, is frequency music. Frequency music, is music that has some sounds that is stimulating your inner spirit. Because, the radio and a lot of our sound systems, even the music, is made at 440 hertz, and it's actually detrimental to our health. It's when it's 500 and above that it's better for us. So in the mornings, when I wake up, I do my exercises. I try to do it every day and not every day. But I listen to this music all the time. Because one, when you go to YouTube or Spotify, there are so many choices. You can choose frequency music. If you have a headache, it sort of goes and focuses on your head. When it's digestive, there's so many choices. I put a link in the bottom of this flyer handing out, and you will see there are many kinds of music, from focusing, concentrating, working, sleeping. For those who cannot sleep well or have a hard time sleeping, there's music for that also. So try all of that, and I think my time is up, and I think I did it as fast as I could. Thank you. But before, let's ask questions. Are there any questions before I end my talk? No? Yes?
You mentioned that distilled water is not okay.
Yeah, not okay.
What do you recommend?
Purified, mineral, having your filter in your home.
pH, right?
Also, everything but distilled and tap. Yes?
What about alkaline water?
Very good. Alkaline water is very good. But then again, don't overdo it. Because you see, our body is a balance of acid and alkaline. So when you overdo naman the acid, you get problems. But when you overdo naman the alkaline, I know a friend that overdid the alkaline, even taking alkaline, I don't know what. She had the problem too. So it's better to just, sometimes drink purified, sometimes mineral, and sometimes alkaline. Don't make it only alkaline. Yes?
How much buko juice are we allowed?
Buko juice, one of my favorites. You can drink as much as you want. However, do monitor yourself because, buko makes you go to the bathroom, which is good. And if you have gallstones, kidney stones, I highly recommend it. At least 5 to 8 glasses a day. It will just flush those stones away. But do look for the ones that are not sweetened. Okay, because I didn't talk on the subject of sugar, but sugar is another one of those things that's not good for you, white sugar. It's better to do wild honey. There's a lot of sweeteners out there. I forgot to talk about this, like saccharin, aspartame. Don't. Even the other one that I even bought it for a while, and then I started to study it, and I realized, not good. It's called monk fruit. No. Because you see, the processing, how it's processed, many things get added there. Now, if you had the natural fruit in front of you, okay lang. But because the processing, the packaging, then they make it sit on a shelf for 2 years, problem. Yes? Stevia. There are natural stevia in drops and powder, but again, the powder, I hesitate now because in producing the powder, it goes through a lot of processing and heat, and then it really kills the ingredient. It kills any nutritional value, really. So stevia, you can grow that in your garden, and stevia leaves are delicious in salad, and you can make your own sweetener out of it, but the drops are a little bit better, I think. But again, the thing about stevia that I avoid actually is that when you take stevia, say you drink a glass of something that has stevia or a cup of tea, for about 2 hours later, you're going to be so thirsty. You're always like, parang you need water, something, and there's an aftertaste to it. So that kind of worries me when there's an aftertaste that takes too long to go away from your natural mouth or body. Then it indicates to me that there's more chemicals than it should have. Yes, honey. I love honey, but you see, honey can be produced in so many ways. And one of those ways, like now that it's rainy season or during the summer, bees kasi, they need to drink water. And then they also need to have flowers to get the nectar. So when it's rainy season, walang flowers. When it's hot, walang flowers sometimes. So what are they going to do? They need that nectar. The beekeepers, they provide water with sugar. So recently, I bought a local honey. My Kalinga people they used to, wala sila today, but they had really nice wild honey, but I had to buy a local honey. And then last night, parang my throat was a little dry, and I took a teaspoon of honey. I'll try yours later. And then when I took that honey, I realized, I can taste the sugar. So they use, it's to be expected. When it's summer, rainy season, the survival of the bees for the beekeeper will be essential. So if they have no flowers, they're going to give them that sugary water. So honey is good to answer your question, but choose the quality. Preferably raw, unfiltered honey.
We were selling
There's the ITAS.
are selling now. Yes, and yes.
So that's the one.
Yes. Sample here.
Yeah, there's a sample.
It's not just regular, like
Bees. Yeah, honey comes from bees.
Wild honey from the passive sambales, from the ITAS themselves.
It's better when it's like that, from the mountain areas. Because chances are they don't do all those processing. Yes?
What about coconut oil and the other types of oil?
Yes, coconut oil. Thank you. Remind me, another ingredient. You know, cooking oil, we all use cooking oil, and I'm sure, you know, Filipino diet, we love fried foods. I'm guilty of it myself, okay? And so many kinds of oil, but then I have to tell you, forget about the soya because it's GMO, forget about the corn because it's GMO, forget about the peanut because it's GMO, and the sunflower. So that's already 4 oils that I'm sorry to tell you, try to avoid. But again, we produce really good coconut oil, you know. And coconut oil, try to get the one that's, you know, that's not so processed. But even for the food stalls that do fried foods, when they ask me, pero ma'am, we cannot afford that virgin coconut oil. And I would tell them, o sige, buy na lang the commercial coconut oil and then use that for frying. Because the best oil for frying is the coconut. It can take extreme heat and it can last for the whole frying time. Don't naman reuse it, by the way.